on your floor. I don't mind selling out or playing cover song, just as long as friends and family sing along. And I don't need more money or a faster car, no. Don't need a magazine to call me a superstar, no. I'm gonna take this little house and make a home, and then I'll never have to face my nights alone. 'Cause in my heart I hear you speak, and on my face I feel you breathe next to me. To by land, by air, by sea, and that is how it's supposed to be. Now, and that much I can say now. I'm pulling loaves of bread down from the shelf, and how rare it is that I stay up past 12. In the backyard we are going to start a garden. If that don't sound mighty good, I beg your pardon. 'Cause in my heart I hear you speak, and on my face I feel you breathe next to me. To by land, by air, by sea, and that is how it's supposed to be. Now, and that much I can say now. If they don't love us, we don't need them. Let's find our own brand of freedom. If they don't love us, we don't need them. Well, let's find our own brand of freedom. I don't mind the slowdown anymore. I don't mind the sound of my shoes on your floor anymore, anymore.
Well, I looked down from my tall window, down to the busy street of mine. I couldn't hear a sound that was louder than the one inside my mind. Instead of trees, the kids were climbing up telephone antenna poles. Their mothers sat on brown park benches and were waiting to get old. Don't we all like to go out dancing to the sound of a guitar strum? Yes, it brings us back together, though sometimes I wonder how. 'Cause to me it's just another way to neutralize my eyes from seeing the daily weary faces for an hour that I'm alive. Still I'm playing out for nickels. I keep him in a wooden drawer, so that one day I can afford her diamonds and pearls. But when I hold her hand, I understand that she's worth a whole lot more than I could ever afford. In my room there's no mistaking, I have the world upon my lap, and with my steel guitar I slide its endless stream of misfortunes out. But this song that I am singing, I've sung it 8,000 times or more. It never changed the way I acted once I went outside the door. Still I'm playing out for nickels, I keep them in a wooden drawer, so that one day I can afford her diamonds and pearls. But when I hold her hand, I understand that she's worth a whole lot more. Yes, when I hold her hand, I understand that she's worth a whole lot more than I could ever afford.
Welcome to an awesome fun. Oh, we're going to have so much fun tonight. So much fun tonight. And there's a purpose behind this tasting. First of all, you've got to know that the reason why I'm doing this tasting and tomorrow's tasting, which is an MGP face-off, is because the YouTube membership has suggested that I do this. And so they get to vote on what I taste during the week in these live streams. And so here we are. But one of the things that I've always wanted to do is I've always wanted to program, I've always wanted to talk about something that is, 10 years ago. So I've been doing this whiskey thing for going on 2 decades. So 15 years. God, 15 years, like in in January, like that, like January, like will be my anniversary into whiskey. So probably will throw a party. I'm gonna throw a big party for my anniversary. Just gonna have nothing but vodka and Jello shots. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I wouldn't do that. Maybe I would do that. Just kind of like have fun. So 10 years ago. Okay, the whole world was just learning about source whiskey. Now, source whiskey is something that's been going on forever. It is deeply in American whiskey's DNA, as well as Scotch and Irish whiskeys. The minute that a distillery pops up, they start looking around like, shit, we got to make some money. And then you have these people who don't want to start a distillery, but they want to buy people's whiskey and create their own products, such as Sagamore Spirit. Now, Sagamore Spirit's obviously making their own distillery, but they bought a lot of whiskey from MGP. Same as somebody like Redemption. Bulleit Rye gets all of their whiskey from MGP. So you have all of these brands that rely on like these kind of juggernaut, these big workhorse distilleries, and they don't have to pay for the actual production facilities. So what you had between like 2007 and 2012, you had this phenomenon where all these people were going and buying stock whiskey from MGP or LDI when, they changed hands in 2010. And so you had all these people going and doing that. Then they would create these like stories behind them. Well, my grandpa had this recipe from back in the day, and he brought it back, and here it is for the first time ever. Well, that turned into a whole bunch of lawsuits. People called shenanigans on it. The most famous one is Templeton. Templeton Rye, of course, in Iowa was stating that they were made right there in Templeton. Now, Templeton, Iowa is a known, like, rye whiskey haven, especially during Prohibition. I've had some of the real, moonshine stuff that's made there. It's actually pretty good. But they got kind of called out because they left off a little bitty thing called the state of distillation on their label. Now, that had been on the federal guidelines since the 1930s. And so since the 1930s, it has been required that every single whiskey label has the state from which it was distilled. So after the Templeton lawsuit, you stopped seeing people like try to, smudge the fact that they bought the whiskey from Indiana and now they said it's distilled there. Now they still said like we had like Sagamore Spirit says we put our own proofing water in there, which is true. You have people who will do things like barrel finishes and everything. And doing everything that he can to try and make it unique and special, and that's fine. But the fact of the matter is, while they were doing that, you had people like Spirit Works, you had Green Hat, and you had this KO bottle. You had people who chose to actually distill their own stuff, and so there's always been this thought in a lot of the whiskey geek circles that craft whiskey doesn't stand up, to some of the more mainstream products. But here's the thing. This is what that crowd misses, is that they focus on the bourbon. But if you actually dial in, if you follow and you look at people's tasting notes and the reviews on the craft ryes, that is where craft distillers have made a huge impact. And tonight, what we are doing is all of these whiskeys are around the same age. So they're all roughly around 3 years old. This one was distilled in Indiana. The other 3 were distilled all over the country. And so I wanted to do a taste off to figure out what's going to win out of here. Now, there's any number of ryes that I could have chosen. Why did I choose these 3? Really, they were sitting on my shelf and they hadn't been opened, and they just kind of looked at me and said, "Yeah, what's up, man? You gonna open us?" And so I decided to crack these bad boys open, and I'm going to start with Spirit Works. So Spirit Works Well, first of all, let's take a look at the chat here. Tim Gargis says, "What's up? What up, Tim? How you doing?" I want to make sure that I get as many of y'all's questions in as I possibly can. Now, there is going to be a bonus tasting in the members-only chat. After this, I'm going to be tasting a 14-year-old Redwood Empire barrel pick. So that was sent to me recently, and I am going to be tasting that in the members-only area. So it is 14 years old, bourbon, finished in French oak port wine, and really excited to taste that. Brett Marquette. I hope I said that right, Brett. Man, I'm doing great. Today was a really big day for me. I got an event, my first. I think I've been very public and honest about what this whole COVID thing has done, to my business. It gut punched me. Like, it took away 100% of my live events, and YouTube. This YouTube has given me an opportunity to have like a community and be able to do some of the things that I would do at the road. I mean, last year I was speaking at the Smithsonian. That is what I did for my living, was go around and talk and educate people about good drink and the history behind the drinks. And it was just all gone. And so today I got like my first virtual booking for like a big event. Now, I've been doing a lot of stuff, but this is something that's being put on by like a major band and everything. And then I also got like a really nice celebrity in the books for an upcoming podcast. And so all the effort and everything that this community right here, the YouTube community, everything that you all have been supporting before, I mean, I thank you, because you guys have helped me get through it. So Brett, that's how it's going. I'm doing really well. And, man, thank you for being here. This is going to be a good night. Oh, no. Greg says he might have been exposed to somebody with the virus. Well, Greg, man, I'll crank as much content as I can out for you. You hang in there, buddy. And they tell you to drink a lot of whiskey in this situation, but seriously, listen to your doctor, and don't go overboard. Just listen to your doctor and here's the big thing. What a lot of people don't want to tell you about when it comes to fighting a virus or anything for that matter, get a lot of sleep. So sleep as much as you can. At Home Dad says he's really worried about the craft companies. Well, I think we should be. The craft distillers have a lot of concerns right now. One poll says that 3/4 of them feel like they're going to go out of business. So yeah, these are craft distillers right here. Well, actually, and I'll get to this here in a minute. But Green Hat is actually a part of MGP. Funny story. I'll tell you that in a minute. But yeah, I do believe that the craft distillers, it may look like they're in trouble because they're so reliant upon their tasting rooms. So if you can support a craft distiller, do it. And I would recommend buying directly from them if your state allows it. Okay, so we're going right into the Spirit Works. Now, here's a little bit of background on Spirit Works. 3 years old, 6 months, 90 proof. Now, this is made at a distillery in Sonoma County, California. I have been very high on Spirit Works wheat whiskey. I thought that their wheat whiskey was some of the best that's on the market. So very excited to see what their rye is like with some age on it. They've got some other products too that I'm going to have to get checked out. You know what? That nose that nose smells like a brown like a brown sugared Pop-Tart coming out of the and I know this smell very well because I love Pop-Tarts. One of my favorite sayings in the world is from Family Guy, sayings like, have you ever had butter on a Pop-Tart because it's so freaking good? And it is so, this has that beautiful like Pop-Tart coming out of the toaster smell. Greg Bradshaw asked, would French Lake be considered craft? Yes, I would consider Spirits of French Lake craft. And I think they're killing it right now. Whew. Boy, that smells good. Wow. Wow. That is really good. Man, how about that? Man, that's an example right there. That's an example of someone of a distillery, that came out and, put a lot of effort and money and time into their facilities in a place that wasn't really, California. People don't realize this, but it's really hard to open a distillery there. And this is beautiful. This has got a lot of like spice. It's got some fruit to it. And I'm going with that Pop-Tart note, that brown sugared Pop-Tart, and then like some apples. I think we definitely have some spice here, but I don't want to say that, this spice is not like a lot of other rye spices that I get. This is more, more barbecue-y spice. And barbecue spices tend to be, sweet, a little tangy, and then like some pepper coming in real strong there. So, and just a hint of smoke in that Spirit Works. So yeah, kudos to Spirit Works there for that. That's absolutely excellent. I would buy that, right now and again tomorrow. Okay, so let's go to Green Hat. Now, funny story on this one. I picked this when I told you guys that I was basically buying, or I picked the bottles. I picked the bottles that hadn't been opened, my craft rye bottles that hadn't been opened, and that kind of met the profiles of an MGP product I had in the house. And I picked up Green Hat, not knowing at the time, and then I created the art and pushed it all out there, not knowing that in March, MGP had acquired them. Now, in addition to COVID taking away my events business, it's also clogged up my email box. There's a lot of press releases I haven't read. So I was just searching for, stuff in my inbox from Green Hat. And well, I looked at it, and there's this press release in here. MGP has acquired Green Hat. And I'm like, oh, well, isn't that ironic? That's really ironic. But that happened in March. And I went ahead and put that up on my website at fredminnick.com and made fun of myself for being 2 months late. But I blamed it on COVID. You can stub your toe in the street and blame it on COVID right now. So COVID's is a pass for just about almost anything. But definitely that is the real story there. So this is let's get to it. Let's get to Green Hat. Actually, you know what? Let's take a look at if we have any questions coming in here. You know what? I already poured myself a glass. I poured myself a glass. I'm just pouring myself another one. So I'm going to put the one I just poured over here for some reason. got really into what I was talking about. Okay, so I don't really know what to make of the nose. The nose reminds me of like an air freshener, like a car air freshener that we use. It's that cedar car freshener, that everybody has in their car. It has that note, and then some kind of bubblegummy. Yeah, I mean, I get that. I get that. That reminds me of a beer, like a stout. So it's got like a watermelon. That bubblegummy note I was talking about, it kind of defined itself on the palate as watermelon, like a Jolly Rancher watermelon. So the two prominent notes here are kind of like a coffee stout and a Jolly Rancher watermelon. I find that to be pretty interesting, and I don't know if I like it. This might be one of those acquired taste ones because it's pretty different. It's pretty different. Generally you don't taste that kind of like there's almost a chalkiness to it. Let me taste it again. Yeah, that one's not doing it for me, but I'll break it down as best I could. Perhaps you may like it. The best note in that whiskey is a Jolly Rancher watermelon. After that, there's that cedar note is prominent for me, and then you have like a coffee stout, and it's almost like a bitterness. So a lot of ryes would express themselves in like a spice. I believe this one to be expressing itself to be very, very bitter, like a bitter coffee, and then like a coffee stout or an oatmeal stout. Some of those kinds of flavors there. So yeah, that's my kind of 2 cents there. Now I'm gonna go to the Sagamore one now, because the bare knuckle is way more proof. So Sagamore is started by the family, the fella Kevin Plank, who owns Under Armour, founded Under Armour, and they're trying to bring Maryland rye back. Now, Maryland rye used to be a very famous style of rye, and they're in an effort to bring that back. I applaud them, and as they were starting out, they were acquiring stocks from Indiana. Now, that's how a lot of people do business, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's no right template to create your own whiskey, but that is certainly one of the most effective ways because they create a brand first. Now, the one area where I actually have a bit of an issue with how Sagamore Spirit is promoting itself, and Widow Jane does this as well, is they talk a lot about their proofing water. And let me read this for you on the back. And this is just a personal issue that I have with. Our spirit flows from a spring house built in 1909 at Maryland Sagamore Farm. Naturally filtered spring water fed from limestone aquifer. The same water that fuels our champion thoroughbreds also cuts the rich spice of our rye, in creating a spirit as revolutionary as America's risk takers and history makers. Our story is one of passion, of old meeting new and crafting new timeless American whiskey. Now, all the way down there at the bottom, it says distilled in Indiana. So if you read that, if you're a new consumer and you read that, you don't really have much of a, I would say, understanding that this is distilled in Indiana. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with using proofing water from your base, to make it different. There's nothing wrong with that. A lot of people do it. But to make that, and I know they're trying to make that story unique and for them to sell the product, but I just think it's a touch too far. And I look forward to when Sagamore Spirit can actually say, we distilled it, and this is our water, this is our story. Because the story just does not add up right now. Because distilled in Indiana, we added it from our spring-fed water. It's uniquely ours. That's just, to me, it's not accurate. So, but that's who I am. I always kind of call it like I see it, and it is what it is. One other thing about Indiana Rye is that Indiana Rye, when everybody started buying their Indiana Ryes between 2007 and 2012, they basically, because they flooded the market with all these different types of, all these different ryes, they basically the same damn thing, but on different labels. That might be a proof point different here. There might be a different barrel finish there, but at the end of the day, they were all 95% ryes. And so the market got all of those ryes, and basically in their head, that's what rye was tasting like. Now, MGP Rye tastes drastically different than Wild Turkey Rye, which is delicious. And MGP Rye tastes drastically different than Dad's Hat, which is being made in Pennsylvania, which is delicious. So you have all these new ryes are coming out, and people are getting to see different styles. So rye is a really fun and fascinating category. And MGP, these whiskeys really should be credited for bringing rye back, because it was their marketing dollars. It was them putting them in bartenders' hands. It was their ryes that helped bring the rye resurgence to us. And as Mr. Smedley says here, MGP does make some really awesome rye. There is no doubt about that. Okay, so I'm getting dill pickle. I'm getting some like a bag of sunflower seeds, like been outside, kind of left there for a bit, and you open it up and you smell that, like that salt and the sunflower shell, and some like roasted pine nuts. So like we use roasted pine nuts in our basil, and before we put it in there, we roast them, so that smell. Yeah, very nice. Really nice, actually, for a 3-year-old. And this is a very low proof for me, but I actually find it to be, a very, to be pretty complex for 83 proofer. I mean, it's got It's got some cinnamon there. It's got that dill. It's got a hint of oregano, and just a touch of chocolate. But I'm not getting any spices that you would consider baking spices or peppers or anything like that. I'm getting more like the herbal qualities in here, and I think I just on that finish, I think it finishes nice and medium, probably like a 30-second finish, and I think it finishes with like a black licorice. So I'm gonna answer my former neighbor's question here. Alex, how you doing, buddy? Miss you. By the way, Alex owns a little mustard company in Cleveland called Stadium Mustard. Guys, it's the best mustard on the planet for a hot dog. Go check that out. But Alex asked, what % of the rye market in USA is produced by MGP? I would say the majority of the brands have MGP liquid in them, and they were producing quite a bit of rye at that plant to be used in blends, under the Seagram's portfolio. They were later converted to be used on the wholesale market, and that's when people started buying them up. So I would say the majority. I can't give you a percentage, but I can definitely say it is the majority. Definitely keep those questions coming in. And again, if you all are not a member in the YouTube members only area, we will be tasting the Redwood Empire 14-year-old finished in French casks that I'm very excited to taste. That should be really, really, really exciting. And this next one, I think, to me is the one that I look at, and I look at the bottle. I read the story, and I look at the proof, and I feel like this is what I want to taste like right now, because everything that I just had is been pretty light, and now we got something with some meat to it. 124.8 proof. Yeah. So here we go. Now this is looks like we got a couple questions here. Go ahead and answer those while I can. Gary asks, have I been to the MGP plant? Actually, yes, I've been there a few times, and it's been a couple years since I've been there. But I actually, been through some blending exercises there. I was there. I think I was the first whiskey writer ever to step foot on the plant, and that was before they kind of opened it up and really told their story. And I wrote this really long feature for Whiskey Advocate, 2013, I think, and giving the backstory behind it. And yeah, it was one of my favorite stories that I've ever written. So here we go to Bare Knuckle. Now this one is signed by the distillers, so yeah, sometimes I don't open those. And man, my nose is itching. Ooh, whoa, my oh my. Brett Bauer asked the question, are all four aged in American oak? I have not seen anything on the bottle or in my research to see that these were not aged in American oak. Now, their Sagamore Spirit is known for finishing stuff. That was not finished. The Green Hat Rye was not finished, and the Spirit Works was not finished. Now, one other thing, while we're on the topic of rye and finishing and all that, one thing you got to remember when it comes to rye is you want to look for the straight label. If you don't see the straight on the label, there is a chance that the person could have put, a flavoring up to 2%, and that is allowed by the U.S. law. So in bourbon, they can't add shit. They can't add anything if you have bourbon on. If bourbon is the main label. Now they can't finish. They say bourbon finished in X, but if you just see bourbon, it's bourbon, and they can't add anything to it. So that's protected from having additives. Whereas with rye, they can add up to 2% if you do not see the term straight on there. So just a little bit of little bit for you there. Okay, so I really, 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 really like this nose. This nose is like, it reminds me of some of the MB Roland barrels that I've had. Like it's buttery smelling, and it's got like this, like right out of the bat, like licorice, and I love licorice. It tastes a little charcoaly. So like the burnt ends like of a little piece of meat there. Yeah, so it's got that charcoaly kind of smoky note. After that, it's cinnamon. It's black licorice. And then over toasted rye bread. So, a couple elements there. A lot of people like the taste of char, and I think if you like the taste of char, you'll really, really like this. Now, ordinarily, I would cut this with water to see what it tastes like, because this, not for like any kind of like scoring or anything like that, but I'm kind of like fascinated by this whiskey because those smoky, charry notes to it. I'll taste it one more time. There is also on that third taste, I'm getting a little like jalapeno honey. So this is one I think whiskey drinkers will like this. Like if you're like a veteran whiskey drinker and you like studying what's in the glass, you don't want the same old. This one makes you think about what it is. So I added some water to it, and that over toasted rye bread note came out a little bit heavier, and now I get like kind of like a stale beer. So that's one where I think it's much better at the cask strength level. Okay, so I think I'm pretty firm in what this whiskey taste-off comes down to for me. I think these two, Green Hat Green Hat, and I want to keep calling it KO, but it's the bare knuckle. The bare knuckle one. It's kind of like they're toward the bottom. I don't know which one is going in for third over the other, but I do know that I do like the Spirit Works one and the Sagamore Spirit one quite a bit. So what we have here is we have a face-off between Sagamore and Spirit Works. So here we go. In my right hand is Spirit Works. Now, Spirit Works is a distillery entirely ran by women. As the author of Whiskey Women, I'm a big fan and champion of diversity. Throughout my career, I have done everything I can to help people advance. And I just feel like the last 10 years we have finally seen an industry that has accepted women as they should, and it's really nice to see that. And I'm glad to see Spirit Works, continue to like push those boundaries and put that out there. But I will say too that we're still talking about it. So as long as we have to continue talking about that there are women in whiskey, then we have more work to do. So every chance you can, bring up to people that whiskey ain't a man's drink. It's an everybody drink. And there are a whole lot of great women making it right now. So Spirits Works, absolutely among them. Stacy Lowe in the house saying strong women rule. Now, everybody, just a moment to talk about Stacy. Stacy was a provider in New York. So she was like one of the people who was fighting COVID. And so everybody, how about it for all of our first responders and those helping those fight COVID. Thanks for joining us, Stacy. Appreciate that. So Spirit Works versus Sagamore Spirit. Oh, it's the Triple S show. Say that 3 times fast. Talk about a tale of two noses. Sometimes when you smell two things that are so differently, you can actually pick up more and you find the flaws or things that you may not necessarily like. I think that's really cool. And what smelling the Spirit Works, which is a very clean, now very fruity for me, in comparison to the Sagamore Spirit, I'm getting more earth out of the Sagamore Spirit, a lot more like dirt, and yeah, it's very different. Okay, so after I can definitely tell my palate was impacted by the bare knuckle one, because the Sagamore Spirit comes in quite a bit more, comes in a little bit more flat, and I know that's not the case. So I think I need to do the old-fashioned palate calibrator here. Yeah, I'm going to have to... Basically, what I'm doing now is that last whiskey, it impacted my palate. So now I have to go to something that I know really, really well and make sure that my palate is kind of reset a little bit. And I know this whiskey extremely well. It's Evan Williams Bottled and Bond. This was my American whiskey best everyday bourbon of 2019. I will not be calibrating my palate with Bud Light. Okay, yeah. Okay, we're all better now. We're all better. All right, Spirit Works, or I'm sorry, Sagamore Spirit. Definitely those herbal notes I was talking about, you know, and the herbal notes just kind of got a little bit more prominent for me. Now we're looking at like herbal candies. So if you're in the mood for herbs, usually you're smoking something, but if you wanted to drink something, the Sagamore Spirit is loaded with a lot of like herbal qualities, tea qualities, and some like licorice. So here we go to Spirit Works. I just love this nose. Friggin' apples. All right, everybody. I just love the way that hits my palate. It's got some sweetness there at the tip. It's got the spice toward the back. It's dropping down the jawline. This is a very easy tasting for me tonight. I am picking Spirit Works in a pretty massive landslide here. So this is an easy one for me. Spirit Works is the winner. So I'll take a few more questions before I head on over to the members only area, where I'll be tasting the 14-year-old Redwood Empire finished in French oaks. Now, if you're not a member, all you got to do is, if you're on your desktop, click that join button right there. And if you are not in the desktop area, I don't know how to help you. So a lot of love out there for Spirit Works. A lot of people here talking about how they're only getting older. Nicholas is bringing up a good point. You know, they're good. They're only getting older. And, you know, Sebasto. All right. So, I mean, I'm just really excited for what Sonoma County's doing there with Spirit Works. I think the distillers have really done a good job with distillation. Everything that I've tasted from them seems to be, you know, punching above its weight, if you will. And what really caught my eye more than anything is their wheat whiskey. Wheat whiskey is a category that just normally sucks, and they put something out that was really, really good. Really, really good. Yeah. All right, everybody. I'm going to hop on over to the members only area and have a drink with the fine members in the YouTube, and we're gonna have a good time. We always have a good time. We just chat it up and, you know, maybe talk a little shit. I don't know. But we're gonna taste the American, the Redwood Empire, 14-year-old, and I'm gonna pick up the bottle. This was what won tonight, the Straight Rye from Spirit Works in Sonoma County. Big win for them. They took down a couple crafts and an MGP whiskey. So for those who like to take notes, all of these were about the same age. And the story of rye whiskey of the last 25 years is centered around Indiana. And tonight I chose a rye distilled, aged, and bottled in Sonoma County, California. So that'll do it for tonight. I'll see you all over in the members only area. Please be safe out there. Don't go licking handrails. Don't lick trash cans. And remember, vodka sucks unless it's being used for hand sanitizer. Cheers, everybody. Be safe.